A common fear that we hear from many members of our community is what's going to happen to my immigration situation if I invest. And this is a really understandable fear to have, especially if you're in an uncertain immigration situation. It is usually the first thought for people to not want to do something that could jeopardize their situation or make it worse. So I completely understand this, particularly as an immigration lawyer and coming from that perspective, how critical it is to make sure that the financial activities you do, whether it's investing or starting a business, even opening a bank account or credit card, are not going to result in immigration problems. So let's dig into this a little bit, because the good news is that a lot of the fears around this, around potential immigration problems with investing, actually are misunderstandings, and there are laws in place to protect you that I want to make sure you're informed about. So the first thing to think about, before we get into like the practical, aspects of this, is if we want to start with some of the abundance stuff we've been talking about, to first keep in mind, at the same time that you have those very understandable, valid fears, also think about the opportunities that are available to you through things like investing, starting a business, doing things that are going to help you advance your finances and build wealth. And to also think about, the opportunities and the faith you have in your ability to do that, no matter what the immigration situation is, no matter what the immigration laws are, and how there's people like us here in Immigrant Finance who can support you, so that even if you're feeling those fears, you can also pursue those opportunities and have faith, instead of just having the fears dominate and take over and hold you back completely from any of these opportunities. So basically letting some of the faith in along with the fear. Now let's talk about the practical stuff. So the good news is there's actually a law called EUSC 6103. Sorry, 26 USC 6103. I will screen share that in a moment, show it to you exactly what it looks like. This law protects you when you share information with the US tax agency, which is called the Internal Revenue Service, or the IRS. So when you participate in investing, the way that your information gets shared with the US government is in the world of taxes to the IRS. The reason is because when you're investing and you make money, you have to report that income and pay taxes on it, just like with any income you make. If you make money in a job, in a business, as a contractor, you have to report that income to the IRS and pay taxes on it. So that's why investing, why your information is shared with the government in terms of investing. It's not for immigration purposes. It's not for any other purpose. It's just for tax purposes. So we're under the tax bucket of the government, not the immigration bucket. And under that tax bucket, this law 26 USC 6103 actually forbids the officials at the IRS, the tax agents who are looking at your information, from sharing your information with anybody else. So they can't share it with other agencies. They can't, including immigration agencies, which means they can't share it with ICE, right? It means that they can't share it with random people who are asking about it. They can't even share it with their with their colleagues. Like, they can only talk about a tax case with their supervisor. This is what the IRS told me directly when I spoke to them about this. And by the way, we have a whole video on YouTube that I'll link to below that goes, that is a presentation from the IRS for the immigrant finance community that goes into this in detail. And you can literally hear from them directly explaining why there's these privacy protections and why it is safe to pay taxes and invest and share information with the IRS, even if you're undocumented, even if you have an immigration challenge. And there is one exception to this law, and that is if someone has some kind of like criminal fraud tax related offense, then this exception would kick in and it would be relevant for the IRS to share your information for that criminal case, for instance. But as long as you aren't like participating in massive tax fraud and things like that, and you're paying your taxes and following the law, like, then there should not be any immigration problems related to investing and paying taxes. This is why there are millions and millions of undocumented immigrants who pay taxes every year and don't have any immigration problems because of that. And I can say confidently, as an immigration lawyer who has been practicing for almost 10 years, working with people who are facing deportation, that I have never heard of anyone having an immigration problem because they simply paid taxes or because they invested, right? Again, as long as there's not any like that exception of like a criminal thing going on, there's no issue, right? So let's go ahead and screen share and I'll show you what this law looks like. And you can look this up yourself. So the way I got here is I just Googled 26 USC 6103. This is the website that gives you free access to US laws. And this is a little bit of legal writing I want to teach you so that you know how to read this. But basically, it's saying that tax returns and tax return information is shall be in legal terms means like must. It's necessary. Shall be confidential. And it says that no officers, employees of the US, of any state, anybody, none of these people shall disclose any return or return information obtained by him in a manner or in connection with his service as such an officer or an employee or otherwise under the provisions of this section. So what this is basically saying is tax and return information is confidential and it cannot be shared by any of these IRS officers with anybody else, essentially. So check that out further if you want to read it yourself. But this 26 USC 6.103 is the law that keeps your information confidential and within the IRS when you invest, when you pay taxes, when you report business income, whatever it is. And so it's just a completely different system than the immigration law system. And it's not a basis or reason why someone would have an immigration problem. If anything, it's actually helpful for any potential other future immigration problems to show that you've been paying taxes, right? To show that you've been financially responsible and building financial stability and building wealth through investing, through preparing for retirement, through preparing to build wealth for your children, right? So what I like to tell people is in immigration court, which is the court someone goes to if they do have an immigration problem, right? If they are facing deportation, that most of the defenses to deportation are what's called discretionary, which basically means it's kind of like up to the discretion of the immigration judge whether you get that defense to deportation. So after someone applies for a defense to deportation, they have to meet the requirements to be eligible for that defense, that relief. But then after that, whether you actually get it is basically up to the immigration judge. And a lot of that comes down to in very simple terms, like whether the judge likes you, whether the judge thinks you're a good, responsible person. And so if you're someone who's been paying taxes every year, if you're someone who has been investing and preparing for retirement, or someone who maybe has started a business and you're employing US citizens, like any of these things, showing you're financially responsible, that you're taking steps to be financially independent is very helpful for that discretion, because the judge essentially looks at someone's equities, which is all the positive and negative things in their life, to determine whether they're going to exercise discretion. So that's a little bit of legal education there. not giving individual legal advice here. I always have to give that disclaimer as a lawyer, but I do want you all to have the legal education to understand that this is often just a good thing for someone's immigration case to show that they are doing these steps to build financial stability and wealth, including investing. So it's actually just helpful, not something that would cause a problem. And the other thing to think about too, of like, besides that law I just showed you that requires the IRS to keep your information confidential and not share it with others, including not share it with ICE or other immigration officials and agencies, is the incentive that the government has to not give immigrants problems when they pay taxes and invest, right? So the incentive is that how does the government make money to run the government, right? It's through taxes. They need that money to keep operating the government and be the government. And the government gets a lot of money from undocumented immigrants who are paying taxes. So why would they ever do something that would make people afraid of paying taxes or make people not have an incentive to do it, right? So this is, again, why we see millions and millions of undocumented immigrants paying taxes every year, even though they are likely not going to get the benefits in Social Security later in life from paying those taxes, right? And so the government very much wants immigrants to keep doing this. This is part of why they, gave a free talk to our audience, right? That I'll link below, encouraging people and helping people understand there is this privacy protection in place. So I hope that this information and this knowledge helps you feel more confident and assured investing. Just to summarize, again, there are privacy laws in place that forbid the government from sharing your information with immigration officials. Only a very limited exception to that if there's some kind of like criminal fraud tax offense going on, right? Otherwise, no immigration problems related to that. The government actually wants immigrants to be paying taxes and investing, because if you make money investing, they're going to get more taxes, right? And also it's actually only helpful for someone's potential immigration case to show that they've been paying taxes and investing and building wealth, because most immigration cases are what's called discretionary. So I hope this is helpful. Let me know if you have any questions, and I will see you in the next video. Bye for now.